There will always be moments in life when we face disrespect. You may dedicate yourself to kindness, patience, and wisdom, yet someone will still try to belittle you. Perhaps they will ignore your words, challenge your authority, or even humiliate you in front of others. It's inevitable. But the true test is not about whether disrespect will come. It will. The real question is, how will you respond? Most people react without thinking. They get defensive, retaliate with anger, or withdraw in pain. But Zen wisdom offers us a different approach, one that disarms without aggression, wins without fighting, and leaves a lasting impact. A Zen proverb says, "The moon does not fight, does not worry, does not try to crush others. It just shines." Instead of battling against insults, you can rise above them. This is not about weakness or submission. It is about power, the power of presence, of wisdom, and of unshakable peace. Today, I want to share with you a story that holds one of the most powerful lessons in self-mastery. A story of a man who sought to tear another down, only to be humbled by a force far greater than his arrogance. There was once a wise master, known for his deep understanding of self-discipline. He spoke little, acted deliberately, and had no interest in praise. Yet his wisdom was known far and wide. People from different walks of life came to seek his guidance, drawn to his unwavering sense of peace and clarity. One day, an arrogant man heard about the master and felt envious. He thought, "How can a man who does not seek attention or boast be more respected than me?" In his mind, recognition was earned by proving oneself, by asserting dominance. To him, wisdom should be loud, forceful, and commanding. The silent presence of the master baffled and infuriated him. Determined to destroy the master's reputation, he devised a plan to publicly humiliate him. He imagined the moment vividly, the master, cornered, stammering for words, his prestige crumbling in front of the crowd. Surely once the people saw the master's weakness, they would stop seeking his guidance. With this goal in mind, he waited for the perfect opportunity. The marketplace was bustling, traders selling their goods, villagers chatting, children laughing. The air was filled with the clamor of life, an ideal stage for the arrogant man's performance. As soon as he spotted the master walking through the marketplace, he sprang into action. He pushed past the crowd and planted himself firmly in the master's path, ensuring all eyes were on them. Stepping forward, he raised his voice so that everyone could hear. "You claim to be wise, yet you say so little. Perhaps your silence is not wisdom, but ignorance? Do you even have the courage to speak, or are you simply afraid to be challenged?" The master, unshaken, looked at the man with gentle eyes but said nothing. His silence was not avoidance, nor was it submission. It was a deliberate choice. The crowd, sensing the tension, turned their attention to the confrontation. Some whispered among themselves, wondering how the master would respond. Would he finally break his silence? Would he defend himself? But what the arrogant man failed to realize was that the master's silence was not weakness, but an unshakable strength. Silence, when used wisely, can speak volumes more than words ever could. Instead of rushing into unnecessary conflicts, the master was choosing his moment wisely. His silence was not the absence of words. It was the presence of understanding. The arrogant man continued his tirade, pacing back and forth, his frustration growing. "A wise man? You are nothing but a coward. You cannot even stand up for yourself. If you are so enlightened, prove it." But the master remained still, exuding an aura of peace so profound that the crowd itself started to question the arrogance of the man. Some began murmuring, "If he is truly foolish, why does he not defend himself? Perhaps his silence is not ignorance, but wisdom." The arrogant man, sensing his control slipping, raised his voice even more. "Do you see this so-called master? He is weak. What kind of teacher cannot even respond?" A few members of the crowd started laughing, but not at the master, at the man himself. They saw desperation in his words, the way he scrambled to make the master react. The more he tried to provoke, the more foolish he appeared. The master, ever serene, finally took a step forward and spoke softly. "If someone offers you a gift, but you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The crowd fell silent. The arrogant man blinked, confused. "What? The master repeated. If someone offers you a gift, but you do not accept it, to whom does it belong? The man hesitated before replying, to the one who offered it. The master nodded. The same is true for insults. If I do not accept your words, they remain yours. A hush spread over the crowd. The truth of those words settled like a weight in the air, undeniable and profound. The arrogant man's face turned red. He had come expecting a battle of words, but instead he had been defeated by silence and wisdom. For the first time, the arrogant man felt the burden of his own actions. He had spent his life trying to overpower others. But here was someone who refused to be controlled. The master had not fought back. He had simply held up a mirror, showing the man the emptiness of his own anger. Realizing that his words had no effect, the arrogant man clenched his fists. But inside, he felt something unexpected. Frustration mixed with doubt. Had he truly been in control all this time? Or had he merely exposed his own insecurity? The crowd, once eager for entertainment, now looked at the master with admiration. They saw a lesson unfolding before their eyes, not just in words but in action. The true strength of a person is not measured by how loudly they speak, but by how unwavering they remain in the face of challenge. And so the lesson of the master lived on, not just in that marketplace, but in the hearts of those who witnessed it. The arrogant man, though humiliated, had been given a rare gift, a glimpse of his own reflection. Whether he chose to learn from it or continue his path of arrogance was up to him. And to those who watched, the message was clear. Power is not found in proving oneself to others, but in mastering oneself. That is the essence of true wisdom. The master simply smiled and finally spoke. If someone offers you a gift, but you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong? The crowd fell silent. The arrogant man blinked, confused. What? The master repeated, if someone offers you a gift, but you do not accept it, to whom does it belong? The man hesitated before replying, to the one who offered it. The master nodded. The same is true for insults. If I do not accept your words, they remain yours. The arrogant man's face turned red. The crowd murmured in awe. At that moment, something shifted. The onlookers, who had initially come expecting drama, now saw the futility of the arrogant man's attempts. They began to admire the master's ability to remain unmoved by provocations. Realizing that his words had no effect, the arrogant man clenched his fists. But inside, he felt something unexpected. Frustration mixed with doubt. Had he truly been in control all this time? Or had he merely exposed his own insecurity? The power of ignoring insults goes beyond just words. It speaks to the deep inner strength required to not let negativity penetrate your mind. Imagine a raging fire. If you feed it with dry wood, it blazes higher, consuming everything in its path. But if you refuse to give it fuel, it eventually burns out on its own. The master, by refusing to react, deprived the arrogant man of his power. But ignoring an insult is not just about silence. It is about emotional mastery. True wisdom lies in knowing when to engage and when to let go. You are not a sponge meant to absorb the negativity of others. You are the sky, vast, limitless, and unaffected by the passing clouds of insults. Think of the most peaceful people you have ever met. Were they reactive? Did they allow their emotions to be dictated by others? They carried an inner light that could not be dimmed by petty negativity. And that is what the master demonstrated, a kind of strength that does not require words to prove itself. This lesson applies to all of us, whether it's a rude stranger, a harsh coworker, or even a friend who lets their bitterness spill onto you. Remember this: you are not obligated to take in their negativity. You can choose peace. You can choose to let go. The arrogant man realized, in that moment of silence, that he had lost. Not because the master fought back, but because he did not. The greatest defeat is when one's own anger and insecurity are exposed by another's indifference. The crowd, which had come for entertainment, now left with wisdom. And the arrogant man, once so sure of his superiority, now found himself humbled, not by force, but by presence. This is the essence of Zen. True power lies not in control over others, but in control over oneself. The strongest people are not those who shout the loudest, but those who do not need to shout at all. As the crowd dispersed, murmurs of admiration filled the air. The arrogant man, once so sure of his ability to humiliate the master, now stood uncertain, questioning his own actions. He had not anticipated this outcome, but deep down a seed had been planted, one that, with time, might grow into wisdom. After being embarrassed, the arrogant man was even more determined to break the master's composure. The next day, he followed the master through the marketplace, this time using mockery instead of insults. "Look at this wise man," he laughed. "So silent, so great. Maybe he's just deaf and dumb." The crowd chuckled, waiting to see how the master would react. But this time, instead of ignoring him, the master turned to the man and smiled warmly. "Thank you," he said. "It must take great effort to entertain so many people." The arrogant man frowned. "What? I see you work hard to make people laugh," the master continued kindly. "Your words are sharp, but do they bring you joy? Or is there pain behind them?" The man's smile faded. The crowd turned their eyes toward him, waiting for a reply. The weight of the question lingered in the air. The arrogant man had spent years using humor as a shield, a way to deflect his own insecurities onto others. But never before had someone peeled back that mask with such gentle precision. People who insult others often expect resistance or anger. They expect a fight. But when you respond with kindness, you take away their control. Kindness is like a mirror. It forces people to look at themselves. Those who insult others are often struggling with inner pain. When you return kindness instead of hostility, you remind them of their own suffering. This aligns with the Buddha's teaching. Hatred does not cease by hatred, but by love alone. For the first time, the arrogant man felt something unexpected. Shame. Not from embarrassment, but from being truly seen by the master. He suddenly realized that all his life, he had been fighting battles with words, hoping to win admiration, but instead he had only been fueling his own unhappiness. The master had exposed his deepest insecurity, not by attacking but by understanding. The crowd, which had once laughed at his mockery, now turned to the master with admiration. And in the silence that followed, the arrogant man, for the first time, had nothing left to say. A deep exhale left his lips. He had come to provoke, but instead he had been stripped bare, not by words, not by force, but by the power of kindness. Yet deep inside, he wasn't quite ready to surrender. Tomorrow he would try again. Perhaps if he pushed hard enough, he could still break the master's composure. On the third day, the arrogant man tried one last tactic. This time, he didn't just use words. He threw a small rock at the master, hoping to provoke him into a fight. The rock hit the master's robe, but he didn't flinch. Instead, he calmly bent down, picked up the rock, and placed it aside as if it were a fallen leaf. The arrogant man was furious. "Defend yourself, coward!" he yelled. The master looked at him with peaceful eyes. "If a storm throws a branch at you, do you shout at the wind?" The man clenched his fists. "I am not the wind. I am a man." The master smiled. "Then why do you behave like the wind, throwing things without reason?" The crowd erupted in laughter. The arrogant man, realizing his foolishness, turned and walked away in shame. Some people are like storms. They throw anger, insults, and even violence. But if you remain calm, they eventually see their own foolishness. When someone disrespects you, don't fight fire with fire. Instead, let their actions reveal their character. When they see their own reflection in your stillness, they will either change or walk away. That is the highest form of victory, mastery over yourself. And so the lesson of the master lived on, not in the echoes of arguments, but in the deep silence of wisdom, where strength is not measured by force, but by the depth of one's peace. True power does not come from retaliation or the need to prove oneself. It comes from understanding that we are not defined by the opinions of others. When you master yourself, you become untouchable, not because you resist, but because you rise above. In that stillness, true power is found. Not in the shouting, not in the fighting, but in the quiet certainty of a person who knows that their worth is not dictated by the anger of others. The master taught not by words, but by example. And that is a lesson the world has never forgotten. Every day you have a choice. Will you be drawn into the chaos of others, or will you remain the calm in the storm? The greatest strength lies not in overpowering others, but in mastering yourself. Choose wisely and watch as the world bends to the presence of your peace. The arrogant man left that day, his mind heavy with thoughts. He had not expected this outcome, and though he did not admit it, something within him had shifted. The lesson of the master had left an imprint, not just on him, but on everyone who had witnessed it. And so this story reminds us of a powerful truth. Strength is not in the loudest voice, nor in the harshest words. True power is found in the ability to remain calm amidst chaos, to stand firm in the face of insult, and to choose wisdom over impulse. You will encounter arrogance, disrespect, and negativity in your life. But remember, you do not have to accept what is thrown at you. You can choose stillness. You can choose mastery over yourself. When someone disrespects you, they expect a reaction. But if you respond with peace, they are left with nothing but their own reflection. And that is the greatest lesson of all. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, ask yourself, will I be controlled by their negativity or will I rise above it? The choice is always yours.